Darbi.
I'm Kaitlin. So today we are going to continue with our conversation behind the scenes of our life. And we're going to talk about old Darbi today.
Oh boy, I'm scared.
You see on social media live of different people asking, hey, ask me anything you want to know. And I love when people do that, because I think ultimately we all have questions we want to know about each other, right?
Yeah,
we're nosy, but it's okay. We all want to know. And so we thought it'd be fun to ask you guys, hey, do you have anything you want to know about us? Anything at all? And so I asked you guys last week on my social media what you want to know about Darbi. And Darbi she didn't know any of these questions. And I kind of like it, Darbi.
I know. I'm a little nervous because I'm an external processor. So I'm like, I'm not going to have time to think. I'm going to have to just say it.
That's right.
Okay.
Are you ready for number one?
I think I'm ready.
It's a good one.
Okay.
Because it's all about your schedule.
Okay.
And your time. So we want to know what just like a day look like for Darbi, or maybe even the week, in terms of what time do you get up? When do you meal prep? What do you eat? When do you work out? How do you schedule time with your kids? Do you ever just like sit and do nothing for a while? Like, tell us about a full day of what your schedule looks like.
Okay.
Because what I hear all the time, truly all the time, how do you do it all?
How do we do it all? Well, what is all? You know what I mean?
It's all of the things.
I know.
Like, it's so many things. So that just tell us and give us insight into what just a day in your schedule looks like.
Okay. Well, so I wake up at 6, almost every day.
Okay.
And so immediately quiet time is like an hour-ish. Then it's getting ready. It's getting the boys ready. My husband's a big helper in this. I got to give him some credit here. I don't do all of that by myself.
Yeah.
And then I don't have to get to work till about 9. So I've got some time in there to get ready and get them ready. So kind of balance that. And then the day is just, I'm at work. My work is people. I would say I use a planner, and I try to be really intentional. Every day I sit down and really think, okay, God, what are the things that I know I have today? Today I'm filming Say So. Today I'm planning for team night. Today I'm meeting with this person and this person. Those are the things that I have to do today that are in my schedule, that are part of my responsibilities. Then as things come in, so a friend needs to have a conversation with me. Darbi, can you call me? Yeah, I've got this time free for that. Or,
okay.
So there's a balance, and I kind of look at it in a week. So if I know that Mike's going out of town this weekend for baseball, I'm going to try to spend time with him Monday or Tuesday. And I'm going to be building that into my mental schedule. And I think there's something to be said for just consistency. I don't have a lot of things that just pop in and out of my schedule. I was thinking that this morning I was making my bed, because I make my bed religiously. And they say that really successful people make their beds. And I remember thinking, why is that? What does that have to do? What does making your bed have to do with success? But it's the consistency, I think.
Yeah.
When you just commit to doing the little things, then those little things become your habits, and your habits are what get you to success. That's true for workouts.
Good. Yeah.
So in a week, I know I'm going to lift 3 times. I'm going to cardio 2. Like, that's my minimum that I'm going to plan to do. And if I have to knock out all of that in Sunday, Monday, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And I just don't make excuses throughout my day. If I plan to read a book for 30 minutes, I'm reading that book for 30 minutes somewhere. It's either going to happen while I'm on the treadmill, it's happening before I go to bed. But the things that I've committed to doing, I'm doing them. And I'm just not letting Netflix or social media, or even with friends, people that randomly, I said earlier, like, if I get a friend that needs something, of course, that bumps up to a top priority. But otherwise, I'll say, hey, I've got time next week. Here's this. And I'll plug it in there, because I want my time to be intentional. But I don't want it to cost me my relationship with my kids or my spouse or my job performance. Is that making sense?
Yeah. So to me, it's very imperative that a schedule is important to you.
Yeah.
And that just knowing how your time is going to be spent is important, right? So what do you say to the person who, like, that's the opposite, and they don't know how to schedule, and they don't know why they should have a schedule? What do you say?
Well, Jesus was productive.
Yeah.
And so he operated within a rhythm of grace. What was his purpose? And he knew what his purpose was when he was here. And so I think that as you as you grow in that, you become more aware of what God's asking you to do, and it helps you decide the yes and the no. But practically speaking, I just started this with one of my teenage boys. I got him a planner. And of course, he's a teenage boy, so he's not going to do an hour by hour, and he's not even in school. But I told him, you're going to practice this summer.
Yeah.
So you're going to write down for 2 months the things that you know you have to do. You have the tournaments these weekends. You have these family obligations, or things at church that you've committed to. So whatever that is, write those in. And the reason I had him do that, even though there might only be 5 things a month, is I want him to start to see where he's spending his time. And so when his girlfriend comes and says, hey, can you hang out? Now you can know if you can or cannot. So we're going to practice with some like things that have a little more flexibility in them. And then as he gets better at that, now he can start going, okay, I'm going to work on Monday, and I'm going to do it for 5 hours, and I'm going to go to workout. And so I feel like it helps you to start seeing just the few things that you have in your schedule. Yeah. And then as you grow in that, because I know some people that's not their thing. Like planner, my husband doesn't really do planners in that way. Start with a few small things, and just it's more of just learning how to say yes and no, how to give your time so that you're actually accomplishing the couple of things that you want to get done well.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I feel like, you do juggle a lot of things in your own schedule, but you juggle a lot of schedules within other people. Yeah. And so I feel like you're just trying to steward that really well by just having an idea of what that time is going to look like, so that you're not double booking, or you're able to be present, or even having, time for you or you and Mike, like, just being thoughtful in that. Yeah. That's good. Okay, question number 2. Okay. Is, the Bible talks a lot about how Jesus lived amongst sin, right? He lived in the world. He lived with people. But he never let the actions of the people or of the sin or of what he was around him, like, change him, right? So we are called to live in the world, but not be of the world. Yeah. Okay. Advice on that. The question is, give me some advice on how to do that. What does that look like? How do you do it?
Well, it's easier said than done, and we can all admit Jesus was the only one that could do that perfectly. He could be with sinners and not sin. But I think practically, and it's funny, I just had this conversation with Noah just this morning. We were talking about that, because the thing is, when we start deciding I can or can't be around sinners, we're actually judging them, I think, to an extent. There's an awareness that comes like, okay, there's a difference between going to a strip club or just going to a party. Okay, can we agree on that? There's differences in what you're choosing to do. Yes. So I'm not going to enter into a place that I know that God wouldn't want me to go. But if I'm at a friend's house and then somebody drinks too much, that doesn't mean that I have to drink too much, right? So I can be around someone who's sinning and not choose to sin, versus just being in a certain place would cause you to sin. Okay. So that's one thing. And I think that when we get to assuming that we can or cannot, we can't always avoid the sinners, because we actually all are sinners. Right. So I already know that. I know that I'm a sinner. So when I'm around other sinners, I'm not trying to then determine, am I going to sin with them or not?
Yeah, and you have to already resolve.
Right. Because if I'm having to resolve that in the moment, then I'm already not resolved in my own faith. That's good. Because I'm going to go, oh, shoot, well, then every circumstance may determine, will I sin or will I not sin? I'm already resolved to not sin. Now, it's a slippery slope when we're not resolved in that, and we're not certain of who we are. That's why I think it's important to read the Word and you need to be feeding your spirit more than your flesh, because we're always going to be around sinners. I mean, that's actually the whole point of the gospel, is that we would go preach and teach to people that don't know the gospel. Just because I go to the jail doesn't mean I'm going to end up in jail. Yeah. So I think there's a balance in that. I know what I'm called to, and I know my purpose, and that's guarding me. And I'm going to continue to guard my heart and my mind. And I'm not going to put myself in situations that could be that could look bad or could cause me to sin unnecessarily, but I'm not going to avoid sinners, because then I'm saying that what Jesus did wasn't enough, or that I'm somehow better than them. Right. So I have to avoid you, or, I may be tempted.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a really good point about, already being already being resolved in your own mind, in your own life, that wherever you go, you're not going to make an on-the-spot decision of if I'm going to choose to, live above reproach or make the right decision, or I'm going to join in simple behavior. It can't be on the spot, because likely we will fail every time,
And looking back on the times when I did choose sin, I think I already knew that I might.
Okay.
I already had resolved that there was something in me that I was already away from the Lord. I was mad at the Lord. I was frustrated. And so I kind of chose the sin path because I already was resolved that maybe I wanted to. But now I can live in a place where I'm like, for the most part, where I'm like, no, I've chosen that I want to follow the Lord and operate that way. So I'm going to naturally choose to not participate in sin no matter who I'm around.
Right. Yeah, I think it's good just because honestly, I think Christian people that maybe work in the church or just are around Christian people all the time, then you aren't actually around like other people who have like just real life big problems or choose to live their life differently. When you're constantly surrounding yourself with people who think like you, you think that is good, but you do have to have people in your life that don't think like you, that you do encourage, that you do live by example for them, right?
Yeah.
Because I think that truly is it's hard because you want to surround yourself with people that are for your good, for the majority, right?
Yes.
But if you only have Christian people, Christian friends, then I don't think you're actually living in reality, because I think, I don't know if it's the majority, but a lot of the world is not a Christian.
Oh,
so then you're out of touch with what other people are really dealing with.
Well, and then you go back to Pharisees were in the temple all the time. They knew the law, but they weren't actually reaching any lost people.
They weren't doing anything with what they knew.
So the goal to me is not to avoid sinners. It's just not to judge sinners. And I think that's where Christians get a bad rap. It's because we're like, they're sinning.
Right.
Yeah. Well, really, you are too just now.
Right.
Because you just now judge them.
Right. Right.
So there is a line, and it's tricky to walk it out. Even raising teenage boys, I want them to be able to go into situations where there's an opportunity to sin, because of course we all have opportunities to sin. The thing is, we can't avoid it.
Yeah.
We can't avoid it. That's why I need Jesus.
Yeah.
If I could avoid all sin, then I would need Jesus. And so
true.
I want them to be able to walk into those situations and go, no, I know who I am. I have accountability to who I am. And so I can choose right and wrong.
Right.
And I think we do our kids a disservice even in that, or other friends that aren't believers, when we say, well, the goal is just to avoid sin.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we're not even addressing the heart then.
Right. That's good. That's a tough question. I feel like you gave a lot of practical things to think about. So speaking of your boys, another question was, because I know we've heard a lot about your boys, 4 boys, different ages, different personalities. Yeah. So the question was, how do I raise children who are different? How do I have like the baseline of what we believe, but how do I let them be who they are?
Well, prayer. And I don't just mean like the really soft prayers of like, God, thank you for my children. Help me love my children. I'm talking about really specific prayers that you're actually listening to what the Lord says about them. Because I know growing up, my parents were believers. They prayed, they read their Bible. But when it came to decisions that I made, especially as I got older, there wasn't anyone saying, you know what, Darbi, that doesn't really sound like you. Or that doesn't really sound like something God would have you do. It was more just like, sure, whatever you want to do. That's what you want to do. That's what you want to do. There was a lot of trust in that, which I appreciated. But at the same time, I'm looking back going, I wish somebody would have said, well, that's not really your gifting, or I don't really know that that's something you're passionate about. So all that to say, I look at my boys, and I don't want them to look like me or like each other. That's a tricky part with siblings. Levi and Noah are black and white. I mean, they couldn't be more different. Yeah. And sometimes the trick is going, well, I love who Noah is in this situation. I wish Levi was. I've never wished that. I never... Lord, convict me if I wish that, because I don't. And I say, Lord, help me see Levi for who he is
Yeah.
and what you've called him to be. And sometimes it's taken years to get some vision on that, but then I do, and I can say, that's who God made Levi to be. I want him to feel fully loved and fully known, and I want to be able to speak purpose and life into who God made him to be, not who I want him to be or the world expects him to be. And it just gives him a health, and it actually draws his heart to the Lord's heart.
Yeah.
That God loves me, made me this way, and so I can be okay to operate in all of those things.
So, I think we always have to get practical, because there's things that, in your family that you want to establish is like, we believe the same on all of this.
Yeah.
But these are the areas that I need to let you be who you are. I need to let you handle this the way you would handle this. I need to love you in the way that you feel most loved. Like, speak to that a little bit. Just maybe what you've learned, what you've established is like, this is the non-negotiable. These are the things that, that are negotiable, that are different person to person. Because it's just like children in your home are just like the children of the church, the people of the church.
Yeah,
they make up the church in different ways, and you need them all.
Yeah.
So just speak to how you, as a mom, and Mike, how y'all parent kids with different personalities when it comes to the practical things.
So I think a word that we use to describe the culture in our home is discipline. And I don't mean like punish. I'm talking about self-discipline. So all of my kids we try to raise them to be self-disciplined, to have self-control.
Yeah.
And let that be a guide. I would say non-negotiables are loving the Lord.
Yeah.
They can love the Lord how they want to, in terms of, if you want to worship this way, worship this way.
Right.
If you don't, then don't. If you lead, you can lead in these different ways. There's always room in that, but goal is to love the Lord and love his church. And so I don't make all of my kids come to church all the time, and I don't make them come to every event, because ultimately I'm looking at their heart.
Yeah.
So I want their heart to be for the house and for God's house and for my house. So I always am looking at their heart, because if they trust me, then I'm teaching them ultimately to trust the Lord. And the problem is we think obedience is a hard thing, but it's really a holy thing. Obedience comes so easily when you trust somebody. People joke all the time about teenage years are so hard, but I have not, knock on wood, I've not had that experience, because my kids trust me. And so the obedience, I'm not saying there aren't mistakes made. They do. But ultimately, because they trust me when I ask them to do something, they do it. Yeah. And if they don't, especially as they get older, I give some wiggle room. We can discuss this.
Yeah.
You want to talk about your curfew? You want to talk about what money we give you or don't, things that we're buying you? Those things are always up for conversation, because I want them to
That's good.
learn to do that.
Yeah.
And so that looks different, and I can place different expectations on different kids. And I think that's true. The Lord knows which one of his kids he can take through a hard thing, and which hard thing, because that's what's going to grow them and that's what's best for them.
I think that's good. I think it's so important that you, as a mom, like, you are settled in who you are, because then you are able to see each kid for who they are. You love Seth differently than you love Levi, and you love Noah differently than you love Seth, and vice, all the same. Yeah. And then JJ, we're still figuring out who he's going to be, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's so good, because I think I think old school style is like, everybody receives the same expectations, same treatment, same love. I'm going to do everything the same because it needs to be equal, or because I don't even see why it should be different. But when you see the children of your home as, they are just different parts of the body, then they have to be treated differently, in some ways. So I think that's so good. Last question.
Okay.
We have just a few minutes. The question literally is, how is she so confident?
It's a facade. Well, I think naturally it's partly my personality. Yeah. I think if you were to ask my sister, she would probably say I've always been this way. I just naturally am opinionated and bossy, firstborn, type A, all those things. But I would say, as I have made mistakes and realized my own need for grace and for the Lord, it's brought me to a place of humility, but also just an understanding of who I am and who I am to the Lord. and I'm okay with mistakes. I'm okay with feedback, or I'm growing in those areas. And I've learned a lot just moving to Graham. You know, when you leave everything that you've known and you have to only rely on the Lord, it was such a unique perspective of just only having him to rely on. But before that, it was walking through a season of just face to face with my own sin and struggles and things that I'd gone through. And sometimes I think we need to be willing to be broken down so that we can be rebuilt. And a lot of times we want to avoid that, but that's where the true confidence comes from. It's not, I'm just settled in who I am, and I'm okay with my mistakes, because my mistakes are where God gets the most glory. So I don't have anything to prove. I don't want to live in a place of earning or performing.
Yeah.
I want to be in a place that my heart is just in a posture of trusting God.
Yeah.
And what he's called me to do. And I don't know that practically answers any questions. But I mean, I think also I work out because I don't love working out. I love to work out because I want to take care of my body, but I also want to look away.
Yeah.
And so I probably put intention into those practical things that build my confidence, whether it's how I look, how I dress, my home. And then at the end of the day, I just say, if this is who I am and I feel like I've settled it before the Lord, I'm going to move in that. And actually, people love other people that are confident in themselves.
Yeah, they do.
Because then you get the permission to be who you are.
That's true. That's good.
And so one quick thing I'm going to end with, my little sister is total opposite than me. And so she's always kind of like gives me a hard time about it. But she would say, when you walk into a room, you assume everyone wants to be your friend. But when I would walk into a room, I thought, no one's going to be my friend. And I think that's a really unique perspective. I was so thankful when she shared that with me, because I thought, I do walk into a room and just think, wow, all these cool new friends I'm going to have. And everyone's going to want to be my friend. And for her, that was not the case. And so I really have wanted to encourage her and anyone that feels that way, that when you walk into a room, people might not want to be your friend, flip it. Try and flip that and say, no, these are going to be my friends, and I'm going to be a good friend. They're going to want to be my friends, because ultimately we all want the friends, and we all want to be the friend. So we just got to do it.
Yeah. So good. I think, Darbi, you are just an inspiration to so many, to myself included. And I love just hearing, the real, raw, just true Darbi. And I think that what's cool is that, you share who you are in this way on the podcast. But, if you have a one-on-one conversation with you, you do the same. If you get on a platform, you do the same. I really appreciate that about you.
Thank you.
I love you.
I love you.
I hope that y'all enjoyed this. And I know I sure did. I'm sure we have more questions. But anyways, we'll see you guys next week.
See ya.